Okay, good evening and welcome to the August 11th, 2022 West Country Coastal Transit Agency Authority meeting. May we have the roll call, please?
Tom Hanson.
Here.
Tiffany Grimsley.
Here.
Norma Martinez Rubin.
Here.
Dion Bailey.
Present.
Maureen Toms.
Here.
Aleda Chavez. Might be running late. And Maureen Powers is running late.
Okay, next item on the agenda, thank you for that, is the Pledge of Allegiance. I guess I'll lead us tonight in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have an agenda before us. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
I move to approve.
Okay. We have a second?
I second the motion.
Okay, so approved by Martinez Rubin, seconded by Grimsley. I guess do a roll call. Do it for the agenda, yeah. Do we have to do a roll call vote to just move it forward, or can we just keep it that way? Yeah, we do, I think. So,
You got to.
Okay.
yeah.
Tom Hanson.
Aye.
Tiffany Grimsley.
Aye.
Norma Martinez Rubin.
Yes.
Dion Bailey.
Yes.
Maureen Toms.
Yes.
Great. Next item on the agenda is public communications. This time is set aside for members of the public to bring up with the board of directors matters of general interest that may not be on the agenda. Do we have any public comments this evening?
No, we do not.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is 1.0. It's the consent calendar. Does anyone want to pull an item for the consent calendar? Okay, seeing no hands, do we have a motion to approve the consent calendar?
Thank you.
So moved.
Okay, I didn't hear who said it, but was it Tom? Okay, so Tom, motion by Hanson and seconded by Grimsley. Can we have a roll call vote on that too, please?
Tom Hanson.
Aye.
Tiffany Grimsley.
Aye.
Maureen Toms.
Yes.
Norma Martinez Rubin.
Yes.
Dion Bailey.
Yes. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is closed session. So we have a closed session for a conference with legal counsel regarding pending litigation. I think we'll stop here and then we'll rejoin the meeting, the general meeting shortly.
Okay, and I am assuming for closed session, it is a standard, the board members, and then Rob and Mr. Conoran, correct?
That worked.
Right. Get this going here. I think that's everybody. I'm gonna send you all invites now. If I miss anyone, just let me know. It's okay, little pumpkin.
So then do we stop the recording over here?
Yeah, stand by, I'll pause it.
All right, thank you. I want to look to our attorney to see if we have any reportable actions on the closed session item.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The board met a closed session to discuss a anticipated litigation matter. Gave direction to council, and that's all of the report that's appropriate. Thank you very much. Nice to see you all, meet you all, and I will drop off.
Thank you very much. Thank
Okay,
you.
have a good evening.
Thanks.
Thank you. Then the next item on the agenda is items for board action and discussion. And the first item is adopting a resolution 2022-15, finding this proclamation of a state of emergency. I've seen the proclamation many times, but is there a report associated with it, Robert? Do you want to give us any input on it? Or do you want us just to adopt it?
Yeah, I think, you've seen it so many times. It's the standard form, standard 30 days, just allows us to keep meeting remotely.
Okay, so in that case, do we have a motion?
I'll move approval.
Okay, so a motion by Toms,
A second.
second by by Martinez Rubin. We have a roll call vote. I don't see others. There, Mike is. Sorry, a roll call vote, please.
Sure. Tiffany Grimsley,
Yes.
Tom Hanson,
Aye.
Norma Martinez Rubin,
Yes.
Maureen Toms,
Yes.
and Dion Bailey.
Yes. Okay, so motion carries. Next item on the agenda is 4.2. That is a presentation on staffing changes, an updated organizational chart. Rob, do you have a staff report?
Thank you. And there was a staff report included in the packet for this item. This is an information only item. It was kind of just to give you an overview of where we are in terms of staffing and kind of where I think we might be heading. Just, there's been some changes in the last year. Mentioned in the staff report, a year ago, we had 9 full-time employees and an outside part-time accountant. And we're now down to 7 full-time employees. We've always kind of felt that the agency was pretty lean in staffing. So with the kind of changes that have gone over the last year, that's kind of been highlighted even more so. We had some pretty major changes in our accounting department with the retirement of our part-time accountants and a change in our accounting clerk position. So, we hired at that time, a new accounting clerk who's now been moved to a finance manager position. That's Deborah. And then Yvonne has taken on a whole lot more of the finance and accounting side of the agency. So I think we've made some significant changes there. And I think we've made some really good headway in that element of how we do business. We've also made some pretty major changes in the maintenance department or the maintenance oversight that we have over our contractor. With Rob, the IT manager, has kind of stepped up to really work in a lot of coordination with the MB maintenance department and kind of put some new policies and practices in place. And kind of, I think I need to acknowledge that Rob and the maintenance staff themselves have really kind of stepped up under these changes because they were pretty significant. I mean, the structure changed overnight after having been in place for almost 20 years. So it was pretty significant changes. And I think we've put some really good new policies, procedures in place. They're working really well back there. And I see some really positive things happening in that sense. And then the other big change was obviously, Charlie retiring. And that's kind of left a hole in my side of the organization, if you like, in kind of what I work on. So the organizational chart that I've included as the proposed organizational chart kind of just tries to identify the functions that I feel that we need to fill. And I don't think we're going to fill any of them overnight. I think I want to spend some time and, a kind of a thoughtful process to fill them. But I tried to identify the 4 main areas where we do need some support and we're going to need some support. I think, the main one is, that, as I say, kind of supporting me and my role in the working with MTC and CCTA and all of the regional and statewide organizations. That's a planning role and a procurement role. I've identified that as two separate positions, but the right candidates, that's potentially one position to do that. The other position I kind of outline is a marketing function. And I don't think we're quite back out of the pandemic to really go full on with a marketing campaign and the need for a marketing promotion right now, especially as we have 3 pretty well-versed marketing staff with marketing experience who can kind of take on that role in the near term and, kind of develop that. I think, internally, there's one person who may want to take on more of that role going forward. And then the other final position we kind of identified is a support mechanism for Rob. We've kind of outlined he's taken on a lot more managerial responsibility and oversight responsibility. And I want to be cognizant of not falling apart on some of the more basic ongoing day-to-day kind of functions that we need to do to keep the facility operating, the fleet operating, the IT systems operating, all of that. So but that's the kind of other position that I've identified as a need going forward. So this is a informational item. Happy to answer any questions or take any feedback, but it's just to starting to look at the outline of where I would like to go forward with in terms of staffing as we move forward. I think maybe just anecdotally, one other comment to make is I mentioned that we've always been a lean organization in terms of staffing. The probably next comparable agency in the Bay Area to us is Soltrans. Rather, they are slightly larger, they have a larger budget, but they have 15 full-time employees doing basically the same functions that our staff are doing. So, it's just an acknowledgement of the hard work that all of our staff are doing on a daily basis and all of the different hats that they wear in kind of making sure that the agency stays on track. And so just, say happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for that information. Any questions from the board? I saw, yes, Director Martinez-Rubin.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. The question to Rob is the planning. Let's see, I'm looking at the chart. The transit planner. That's the position that is now open. Would that be the person who would ordinarily staff the TAC or Technical Assistance Committee for that's part of WCTAC?
Yes, that's been my position for the last 16 years and maintains my position. So yes, that's that role. Yes.
Okay. And in the interim, until such a person is on board, who gets to do that?
I still plan on attending the meetings. I have been attending the meetings. I may not stay for the whole meeting if there's an item. I try and stay focused on the relevant items to the agency at that particular meeting.
Thank you. Yeah.
It's still on my calendar. I still plan on being there.
Thank you. Okay. I was just curious about that. It's not a meeting. It's the meeting that I regard as indeed the technical expertise that informs whatever plans come out. And in that group, I wear the Pinot representative hat, but being on this board as well, make me wonder about how we're going to fill that spot, or who would be filling that spot without missing out on whatever opportunities come about. Yeah, thank you.
Sorry, are there any additional questions from the board? Director Hansen.
Well, what might be a good idea is you've got the basic plan put together, but maybe you might want to meet with the F&A and kind of go about how much money you're thinking about plugging into the positions that are open right now and what effect it'll have on the budget. So that's kind of all ironed out before you get started, instead of having to maybe put the horse in front of the cart a little bit there. Get the F&A to buy in on what your financial strategy is. And then when you start moving forward, it's kind of already understood.
Yeah, I will say that the budget that was approved did include, at least partly include these positions. Well, I completely agree, Tom. And I think under my general manager report, I'm going to talk a little bit about the F&A committee. And so, but yes, I agree. I 100% agree with you.
I do too. Any other comments from the board or questions? Director Adriana Chavez, and then we'll go to Director Martinez-Rubin.
Yeah, so I was wondering, Rob, if you have also explored the salaries that transit planners have. It seems for the beginning salaries seem a little bit low to me, like people with no experience would take that position, but I wonder if you had already explored, like ask around or see if how much people make, in that traditional position.
Yes, I mean, I have done some research with the other agencies, and I think that's one of the reasons why I think there's a real possibility to combine the planning and the procurement position to find a quality candidate.
Okay.
That is my ultimate goal. I have spoken to a few other potential candidates out there, very preliminarily, just to kind of get a feel for what they would think about that kind of position. So I have started exploring that, and the salary would be reflective of current salaries throughout the Bay Area for planning positions.
And And then do you plan of like opening the position to have an open call, or you already have some people?
No. I think there will definitely be an open call. This was just more of a, as I'm
Yeah.
writing the job descriptions to understand who I might push towards looking at it and having a deeper conversation with.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Oh, I'm sorry, Director Martinez Rubin.
Thank you. Yeah, I was curious about the pool, the availability of interested individuals, even without yet advertising the position. Just generally speaking in this field, you know, how does it look to draw from a current generation of interested individuals? And I asked that question with curiosity and also thinking about the what was that term that was coined recently, given people resigning from all kinds of different positions? That I suppose we're going to be seeing sort of back and forth of people drawn to public service and careers specific to transportation. I just wondered how it seems that there might be a likely pool sufficiently large to draw from, and experience the range of qualified individuals that would eventually be a good fit for WestCap.
I think that's the absolute challenge. I think there's probably the largest pool is the newly graduated individual who we have maybe historically found that is perhaps not the best fit for the way our agency is set up and how we are able to give relevant tasks to that type of individual. I think our agency is set up a little bit more to need someone that a little bit more experience, someone who has been in the role for a little while and understands some of the nuances of how a small agency operates, and all of the different funding sources and how to be involved in the whole regional aspect of it. Newly graduated people have a great outlook and a great future, but we've just had a little bit of issues in the past with that kind of candidate.
So you need somebody with more, a little bit like 3 to 5 years of experience, I guess.
Ideally, and just especially with what's going on in the region right now, it's I think it'd be really helpful to have someone else who understood a lot of what's going on and was able, was maybe not completely up to speed, but had a general understanding of how area transit was currently operating.
Well, there is a lot of turnover at different agencies right now.
Sure.
I apologize for being late. I had internet issues and I couldn't even join by phone. And I was, I'm coming from Oakland, so I didn't work today at home. So I have to turn off computers and turn on another one. So
It's okay. It was our secret.
that's right. Yeah.
Any other comments or questions from the board on this particular item? I think it's just information only.
Yes.
So, okay, so seeing none.
I agree with I was going to say, I agree with Director Hansen to actually discuss it at FNA committee.
So, and I also agree. And I think that I think we're going to hear a little about FNA at the end of the general manager's report. So I think you're going to hear that your desire is kind of already in the plans. Okay, if there's nothing else on this item, we'll go to item 4.3, which I guess is sort of related. This is the approval of the West Contra Costa Transit Authority's public available pay schedule and some sort of looking back. Rob, can we have the staff report on that?
Sure. Again, there is a staff report in your packet that kind of outlines the basics of what we're asking tonight. I'll try and explain it a little bit because it's a little unusual, I guess, what we're asking the board to do tonight. So part of our, as we're part of CalPERS, one of the requirements is that we do have a publicly available pay schedule in place. And the board last approved this document in 2020. And at that time, what the document that was approved was basically a scale. So there were, step increases. So there were 7 steps outlined for each salary position. We thought at the time that was okay, and CalPERS were fine with that, and we had that in place. And then with the with Charlie retiring and subsequent conversations and me starting to work on an update to this, which we were going to bring to the board this month anyway, we kind of understood from CalPERS that what we passed in 2020 is perhaps not actually in compliance. And the main reason is that we tend to do cost of living adjustments and merit increases. And so we didn't actually follow the actual steps that were contained within that document. So we stayed within the ultimate range, which is a good thing. You know, we didn't pay a bit more than we said we would under that range, but we didn't stick to the individual steps. So I'm talking to CalPERS. I'll be honest, Yvonne's done most of this conversation, but I'll hopefully be able to kind of talk us through that. They suggested that the way to do it, because we do the cost of living increases, was to create a range for each employment position. And going forward, we will have this on every July's agenda with a updated or carrying on the same range for each position that we have. They did suggest, particularly because Charlie has retired and we need to have these documents in place to ensure he gets the pension he's entitled to, we do need to retroactively approve these documents. And while we perhaps only need to do 3 years, the suggestion from CalPERS was to make sure we had 7 years of these documents on file, which is the standard kind of retention. So I understand that this is a little unusual, but this was kind of in consultation with CalPERS. This was the recommendation that they made that we should bring to the board tonight, would be to retroactively approve the previous 6 years pay scale, available pay schedules, and then approve the upcoming year. And we have gone back and created these schedules based on what everyone actually was paid during each year. You may notice that in 1 year, there's a note that there were no salary changes, and so the scale is the same. And there's another year where we made position changes and salary changes in October. And so we actually have two scales for that particular year, just to make sure that we're fully in compliance with everything that we need to do. And we're kind of following that. And as I say, going forward, we've already established a policy that this will come to the board every July. Historically, the budget is approved in April, May, June. Any salary increases that they're approved for the staff go into effect July 1st. So it makes sense for this to come before the board and be approved at the July meeting. So that's our request and our recommendation for this item, and I'll happily answer any questions that anybody has.
Thank you, Rob. Any questions or comments from the board? Okay. So Rob, just to confirm, Tom, was that a motion? Were you moving towards the mouse? No. Okay. So we're just codifying what we have done in the past. We're just kind of codifying it. So this has been the practice, but we're going to have that. And then are we going to publish that somewhere?
Yes, it will be published on the website.
Okay. Thank you for that. I think I saw that we do have a board member, Adrino Chavez. Director, please go ahead.
Yeah, it's just the way I understand it is just basically I'm corroborating if this is just like a policy, but it doesn't affect any budget or salary and for the staff. Is that right? It's just
nothing's affected. This is just a confirmation that each position was paid a salary within this range for that.
Yeah. Okay, great. So, and it will be on the website, you said.
It will be on the website. Yes.
Okay, great.
And this is a requirement of every public agency in the CalPERS system. It's not unusual. It just maybe somebody didn't understand the regulation quite as well as they. I think going forward, we know what we need to do, and we'll ensure that we're in compliance.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the clarification.
All right, thank you, Rob. I think it's a great idea. I think it's good that we're gonna have this on the website going forward, and that we have a better understanding of the expectation from CalPERS, because they're our partner in this, right? Like I said, those that qualify for that retirement want to make sure they get that retirement. So this is good looking forward, and we have sort of a timeline. We'll see this sounds like in the July timeframe annually going forward.
Yes.
So great.
And, you know, it could be that they don't change and there'll just be a note that they're the same scale, or, you know, we can talk about any changes that are made at that time.
But the board would expect to see something in July. That would be
Yes.
just some kind of update.
Yes.
Okay, looking forward to it. Any other questions or comments from the board? Otherwise, we'll take a motion.
I'll move that we retroactively formally approve and adopt the publicly available pay schedules for the fiscal years identified.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second,
Okay, so motion by Director Tom, seconded by Director Hanson. We have a roll call vote, please.
Yes. Tiffany Grimsley,
Aye.
Norma Martinez Rubin,
Yes,
Aleda Adreno Chavez,
Yes.
Maureen Toms,
Yes,
Tom Hanson,
aye.
Dion Bailey.
Aye. So motion carries. Thank you. Okay, next item on the agenda is a consideration of a free fair promotion throughout October 2022. Back to the general manager. Can we have a report, please?
Thank you. So again, there is a staff report in the agenda. Well, you may remember last September, we did offer free fares throughout the whole month. It was part of a much larger regional return to transit marketing campaign. During that time, we did see around a 17% increase in ridership on the prior month. And, you know, since then, we've pretty much seen we've kind of held steady since then. Been a few ups and downs. I think, you know, there's been a few COVID spikes here and there and a few things like that. But just looking at our current ridership, to compare it back to our ridership from that free fare month, our express and link service are both up around 10%. Our local service is pretty much flat compared to where we were then. So we felt that maybe it's time to run another free fare promotion. We have the funding available. We have funding through the LC Top program, which has already been approved by the board and also by Caltrans for use of free fares for our agency. So we feel like it's a really good fit. We decided to look at October for a couple of reasons. One, County Connection are also doing the exact same promotion throughout the month. So I think it's always good to get a little bit of synergy with another close by transit operator. And then there's also currently a promotion that WICTAC and 511 do called Pass to Class, which basically gives students free rides on transit if they apply through the program for the months of August and September. So this will also kind of like piggyback on the end of that. So technically students could have free transit all the way from, you know, first day of school through the end of October. So we think it's a good use of funds. We're hoping to see an increase in ridership, obviously. You know, we'll promote this, and I think we'll again reconnection, a similar program will be beneficial to us. I believe bars are doing a half price promotion in the month of September. So that will also kind of just give us a way to carry on kind of the discount for some of our riders. So I say we do have funds available. We've anticipated that if we saw a 20-25% increase in ridership over where we currently are, the cost would be around $150,000. We have over $320,000 or just under $320,000 of LC Top funds towards this program. So tonight we're just looking for the board to authorize this promotion, and we'll kind of start working on it and getting the word out to ensure that riders know that it's coming.
Thank you. We'll look at the board to see if there's any questions or comments. Okay. Director Martinez Rubin.
thank you, Rob. Remind us, is the funding for the LC Top strictly California based, or is it federal California and then the region?
It's California based.
Okay, okay,
Yeah.
good to know. I can continue being proud of my state then. All right, thank you.
Any other questions from the, I keep saying council, from the directors? Okay, seeing none, I will then just make a quick, I think it's a great program, great opportunity. I did not know the kids have the possibility of writing for free from August through October, it sounds like. So I'm sure a lot of parents will be happy to hear that. If you guys have any brochures or information, if you'll send me a copy, I'll make sure to distribute it around town. Otherwise, it sounds like a great program. And I do see that it looks like Director Martinez Rubin has her hand raised again.
Right, and I think from the staff report, we can also gather that it's not specifically eligibility based or let us know otherwise, which means that it broadens the ridership. Is that right, Rob?
It's open to all riders, fixed routes, links, express, dial a ride. It's, it's free trips across the board.
Thank you. Okay.
And then I'm sorry, because I may have confused myself. So it's free trips across the board for October, but the other program, the August through I guess through the first to the end of September, that requires some other process. Is that what I?
Yes, that's for students, so that you have to actually. Mika may know the actual how you go about it, but there's actually a process to apply through the school. I believe it's through the district.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll work with her offline because the item before us now is October. So I'll stay focused on that and then I'll reach out. Thank you very much for that. Any other questions or comments from the board? Okay, I think we need a motion to move this forward. So do we have a motion?
I'll move we authorize the free fare rides and the use of LCTOP funds to cover passenger fares during the month of October 2022.
Okay, do we have
A second. A second.
So motion by Tom, seconded by Adriano Chavez. May we have a roll call vote, please?
Tom Hansen,
Aye.
Maureen Toms,
Yes.
Aleda Adreno Chavez,
Yes.
Norma Martinez Rubin,
Yes.
Dion Bailey,
Yes,
Tiffany Grimsley.
Yes.
so the motion carries. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is I think 4.5. That's a presentation and discussion of financial report. Back to our general manager.
Thank you. So this is the final report from our FDA triennial review. We kind of mentioned it as we were going through this process back in May, and that we were going through the process. And I think at that time, I believe when we had the board meeting, we were about to go into the last couple of days of our virtual meetings with our reviewer. So this is the final version of the final report that the FDA have produced. The review basically goes into 23 functional areas of the agency to ensure that we are in compliance with all of the current FDA policies and procedures, and also kind of examines how we perform and how we go about a lot of our duties and our obligations. So it's a pretty intense time when we go through this process. We receive a huge request for data kind of a few months before, with quite a lot of getting together information, which was a challenge this time because of our ransomware attacks. So we were pretty grateful that our reviewer was helpful in kind of, helping us walk through some of the documentation and making sure we had it in place. But we did end up with 2 deficiencies that were found at the end of the process. They were both in the area of procurement. We were able to close out one of those areas. It's noted in the report as a closed item, and that was to do with the written procurement history we have to provide of when we go through a procurement. And this was a particular item that was down to, we just didn't have it because of the ransomware. And so there was a bit more of a process to go back and recreate that document and get all the correct dates and historical facts into that document. So we were able to provide that in time for the reviewer to note it as a deficiency, but note it as closed in the final report, which is a good thing. The other area of deficiency, again in procurement, was we actually did not include some of the third-party clauses in the contract that they looked over. And it's probably worth noting that in speaking with the reviewer and speaking with FDA staff, this was a finding across the country with numerous agencies, because there was just not a procedure in place within that agencies to go through the process annually of seeing what updates needed to be put in place. So the recommendations to close out the deficiency were to include these clauses in the next contract, which we will do. We've updated our procurement manual to reference the missing clauses. And we also have a new procedure in place that annually during our FDA certain assurances process, where we have to go through and confirm, and our attorneys actually involved in this process, go through and confirm all of the certain assurances with the FDA. There's a master document that is also available that will now be referenced annually. We will pull that up on the website and note any significant changes or any changes that we need to make to our procurement policies. So that is submitted, all of that additional documentation to the FDA on August 3rd. They did acknowledge receipt of it. They are in the process of reviewing it, but I'm fairly hopeful that that deficiency will be closed out within the next, I'm not going to give a time frame, it's the federal government, so there will be a time frame in the near future where that deficiency should be closed out. So again, maybe just one final note. During the review, our Public Transportation Agency Safety Plan was reviewed, and the reviewer really liked the way that we'd set up our arrangements with the MV safety manager in order for that person who's responsible for safety on site to have direct access to the general manager of Westcat. And the reviewer was really liked that and actually recommended that our plan be included in an example as part of the agency safety plan directory that FDA have produced for peers throughout the country to kind of take as good examples. It's a best practice manual, I guess, would be the easiest way of saying it. So that was another positive outcome from the triennial review. I think tonight we're just looking to the board to receive and file the final report. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions for General Manager from the board? Okay, seeing none. Oh, I do see one. Director Norma Martinez-Rubin.
Thank you. And it's more of a comment. Congratulations on having that safety plan having been acknowledged. And I imagine because former General Manager Anderson, as well as Mr. Edwards, Peter Edwards, probably had a lot to do with making certain that there was some meshing there that made the plan not only a written document, but reflected the reality of what Westcat can do with regard to safety all around. So thank you. Thank both. Or not only, well, both and everyone else who was involved, all 7 and or 9, however many people had to take part in producing that document. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Martinez-Rubin. Any other questions as we receive this report? Okay, I just want to thank staff for obviously for preparing it and then trying to repairing those items that were outstanding. I think we call them discrepancies where I work, but I think you called them
Efficiencies.
Efficiencies, yes. And so I thank you for taking care of those as appropriate. Okay, next item on the agenda, we'll move forward if there's other questions on that one. Next item on the agenda is authorization to release a request for proposal for development of a zero emissions bus rollout plan. Mr. General Manager.
Yeah, I'm going to ask Mike Fineri to kind of take the lead on this one.
Yes, good evening. So the Innovative Clean Transit Regulation, which, by the way, there is a staff report in this month's board packet for you to reference any of this information if you would like more information after our discussion tonight. But the ICT, the Innovative Clean Transit Regulation, requires that all transit agencies submit a complete zero emission bus rollout plan that's approved by its board, showing how the agency plans to achieve a full transition to zero emission buses by the year 2040. By this time, it's required that all transit agencies are providing zero emission service. So the rollout plan that we're discussing is the first step in making this happen. It's going to identify everything from the type of zero emission fuel that we adopt, or the correct combination of fuels to what is required in preparing our facility and our staff to be able to accommodate, operate, and maintain these vehicles. So it carefully lays out the plan that we'll follow to meet the requirement. It's not enough for us just to agree to be compliant and say, yes, we will do so. They want to actually see how we plan to achieve it. So careful planning is essential to this whole process. Given the specialized nature of this transition, WESCAT really does not have personnel on staff with the experience in these areas associated with this project. That's why we're seeking to hire a qualified consulting firm to conduct the necessary analysis and to develop the subsequent steps needed to achieve full conversion by 2040. The plan itself is required to be adopted by the board of directors and submitted to CARB by June 30th of 2023. So the rollout plan itself is due in a little less than a year. The goal of the analysis, this information is in your board packet. It's really fourfold. I mean, it's to determine the type of zero emission fuel that's going to best support WESCAT's operations, determine the most cost-effective approach to having a 100% fleet that is zero emission propulsion, to determine the capital improvements and the infrastructure required to achieve zero emission bus fleet and operation, and to provide a purchasing and infrastructure strategy and the schedule that will allow WESCAT to meet these deadlines. So with the development of this plan, or with the plan requirement coming up fairly soon, just in about 10 months, we're recommending that the board authorize us to release an RFP to find a firm to help us develop our zero emission rollout plan that's required by CARB by June of 2023. If there's any questions about what we're talking about tonight, we'll do my best to try and answer any questions. Again, you can defer to some of the information that's provided in your board packet.
Thank you, Mike. We appreciate the report. I see that Director Martinez-Rubin has a question.
The answer to my question is perhaps something that the consulting firm will provide us. I'm still trying to understand how conversion will be possible. What I did not hear was the conversion to electric vehicles. So there must be a reason why we're still considering fuels, types to be determined, types to be identified, sources of those fuels yet to be identified. So help me understand why we're going that route.
Well, electricity actually would be one of those fuel types, the fuel sources. The electricity, it's really, you're looking at either electricity, battery cell vehicles, or hydrogen fuel cell vehicles. So it's electricity or hydrogen. And that's what the consulting firm will come in and kind of, their analysis will kind of say, look, based on WESCAT's operational area, and the routes that we run, the type of service that we provide, they will do an analysis that's going to come up with the best type of fuel, electricity being one of those. Should we be all battery electric? Should we be all hydrogen? Should we be a combination of the two? Rollout plans are in existence that have anywhere from all electric, all hydrogen to a combination of fuel. I can't say exactly what they might recommend. We kind of have our own sort of thoughts on the process that we are going to, provide to the consultant when they come on board, but it's going to be up to them to give us the best determination of what is actually best for us and most cost efficient over the course of the full rollout plan. So electricity is definitely one of those fuels.
Thank you, Mike. And you can hear that the way I posed the question is also a reflection of what I know. And as a user of a vehicle, that relies on fuel that's been most available in my lifetime. So the other thought that occurred to me was at some point, I hope to hop on one of these differently fueled vehicles. So, hopefully we'll all be around when we get to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Martinez-Rubin. Any other questions or counsel from the board? Director Grimsley.
Hi, thank you. Are there other interim deadlines or metrics that have to be met prior to 2040 that we're aware of at this time?
I think it's by 2029 that 25% of the vehicles that we purchase must be zero emission. So it's kind of a staggered. We don't go into, if we're going to order in the future, if we need to order 20 vehicles, that all 20 have to be purchased as zero emission. A percentage of those by a certain period of time have to be zero emission vehicles. So there will be a combination of those and traditional diesel fuel up until the time of 2040, when 100% of the fleet will actually have to, any bus that we purchase at that point, the entire fleet will have to be zero emission. So it is kind of yes, there is kind of a staggered benchmark that we have to achieve. And I don't think it's until 2029, is it 2029 or
2026.
26, okay.
2026 for the small operators. Small operators and large operators have very slightly different timetables. I think by 2029, it's actually 50%. And then so I think the idea is the regular transit vehicle has a useful life of 12 years. So I think the plan is that really by 2040, pretty much every vehicle out on the road within transit should be a zero emission vehicle by 2040. That may not quite be the case because vehicles last longer than useful life, but that's the goal.
Thank you, Director Grimsley. Thank you for the answer from staff. Any other questions? Okay, so I think that the staff is requesting authorization to proceed. So do we have a motion?
I'll move to approve that our general manager release an RFP for a competitive bid for the development of a zero emission bus rollout.
Do you have a second?
I'll second.
I think second was Tom's, I think. I didn't see okay.
Yes, second.
Okay, so motion by Martinez-Rubin, seconded by Director Toms. We have a roll call vote, please.
Tiffany Grimsley,
Aye.
Tom Hansen,
Aye.
Aleda Andrino Chavez,
Aye.
Norma Martinez-Rubin,
Yes.
Maureen Toms,
Yes.
Dion Bailey.
Yes. Okay, so motion carries. Thank you. Moving on with the agenda, the next item is committee reports, and to our general manager, Mr. Thompson. Any?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So I do have a couple of comments. Firstly, just acknowledgement, we are currently in the middle of our annual financial audit, and I just want to acknowledge the work that Yvonne and Deborah have put into this audit. It's, we've kind of been, all the changes we made over the last year, there's been a lot of work, and we got a brand new auditor. There's a lot of questions back and forth, and they put in a lot of work over the past few months, and particularly this week with the auditor kind of being on site. And the reason why Deborah's not here is she's actually working on getting some information together for tomorrow. So just an acknowledgement that that's kind of going on at the moment. Then second thing I wanted to mention was I did purposely ensure that there was a staff for all of the items in the packet tonight. That's something that I'd like to carry on going forward. I think will hopefully be beneficial just to have the basics outlined of individual items before we actually start talking about them at the meeting. So I hope that's useful. And one other thing that I'm going to hopefully start including, and this kind of relates back to the comment about the past class and other things, I'd like to start including some kind of marketing memo within the board, just for kind of what's going on, what promotions are happening, what's happening around the facility or around the service, the service and the system in general. You know, similar to, well, a much condensed version, but similar to the bi-weekly city manager reports. Just something that is something visual, something that can keep the board a little bit more informed about all of the different things that are going on around the agency. So didn't quite get that done for this meeting, but hopefully we'll get that done for the next meeting. Then the F&A committees, we're not able to kind of find a time to meet before this meeting. It's always a challenge to get it has always been a challenge to get the F&A committee to find a good time to meet. And I think going forward, having talked to Chair Bailey a little bit about this, I think we're going to put on a quarterly F&A committee, standing committee on the calendar. And I think I'll bring this item forward next month so we can kind of codify it and have it kind of set in place. And if we need to cancel that meeting, we can. If we need to move it, we can. But I think just having an actual F&A committee on the calendar will help us keep on track and ensure that we bring the items that need to go to the F&A committee before the full board. So, so back to your point, Tom, the staffing item, I think that's the perfect kind of thing that we will look to agendize for the first meeting, which I haven't quite figured out when that's going to be, but we'll come up with a time and we can have a little bit back and forth about what will work. But I think just having it on the calendar will be a benefit. Two other things for operation and financially relevant. The one-seat ride pilot that we've been operating with County Connection, Tri-Delta and Labda, which means that ADA eligible passengers do not need to transfer between our systems if they're making that trip across agency kind of boundaries. So they're able to book a trip from Hercules to Concord or Hercules to Martinez, on old Pleasanton. They can make that one phone call, they'll be picked up and they won't have to transfer. That's been a pilot for the last 18 months. We have a meeting with the operators in 2 weeks' time. And I think our plan is to make that a permanent part of our systems. I think all operators have seen great benefits in that. Cost-wise, as an agency that don't have the most trips going in that direction, I think we've seen a benefit of not having to take trips to Martinez and then kind of, deadhead back with no one on board. So there's definitely been a benefit to our agency. And I think it's something that we definitely want to keep going forward. And we have the buy-in of at least of the 4 operators. We'll hopefully now work a little bit harder to get East Bay Paratransit involved so we can have that connections kind of further south into other parts of West County and Alameda County, but that's still to be determined. And then the final item I wanted to touch on was the BART feeder bus funds. I know we've kind of brought this up on and off over the past year or so. I think it probably is around a year ago that BART first approached MTC about renegotiating the agreements that they have with ourselves, Tri-Delta, County Connection and Labda to provide feeder bus connections to the BART service from our service areas. It's been a little bit of a stagnant conversation over the past 6-8 months. The operators have been talking about it amongst ourselves, and I think we have a understanding of how we want to talk to MTC and approach MTC and BART about the importance of these services and how these services need to still be funded, and trying to help BART understand what these services provide to their riders ultimately. I think we have a perfect example of the Hercules Transit Centre is owned and operated by BART. We provide service directly from that location, directly to the BART system at Del Norte BART. And so for BART to kind of want to renegotiate how their obligation to fund that kind of service is something that we're obviously concerned about. The reason why I'm bringing it up tonight is we do have a meeting with MTC next week. So I just feel that this is going to be something that is going to perhaps be accelerated and become a little bit more out in the open. And so I want the board to be aware that this is something that will definitely, I can guarantee it will definitely be on the agenda next month in some form. Hopefully with a good resolution, but that's remain to be seen. So this is more just information that this is an upcoming item, and I think it is something you're going to hear more about. So that's the end of my report. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions? Director Thomas.
Yes, thank you, Rob. That's good information about paratransit not needing to transfer. I know that the advocates for people with disabilities and the senior community have been advocating that for a long time. I'm just curious if that is coming out of the accessible transit study that CCTA is doing, or is that something that's just been in the works?
This is
outside of that?
The pilot's been going on for 18 months. This was a project initiated by County Connection when they went out to bid for their last operation contract. The contractor kind of approached them with this idea of how they may use a subcontractor to provide these services. And the operators, we all met, discussed it, kind of the financial consequences of it. And ironically, one of the really good things to come out of COVID was that we were able to do this on a small scale and really kind of understand the demand, how it would operate. And, we've slowly built it up. I mean, there's the ridership since we started the pilot is, we actually had by far our highest ridership month last month of our passengers using this program. So the accessible transportation study are involved in how this may develop in the future. I think their role, I hope their role will be in working with East Bay Paratransit to encourage that kind of connection and bring them on board. But I think this was an operator-led initiative that, has got kudos throughout the region of, as a really good pilot project of how to provide this type of service.
I think it's a great move forward. So thank you. And then if I can make a comment about the BART, I have heard in my own household, about the, when BART was established and how Pinole did not get BART, Pinole Hercules area did not get BART. That was sort of the deal, is that we would have bus transit. And, that was a promise. Back then, it was the way to, sort of satisfy us who were paying the half-cent sales tax and not getting the service in our community. So, I'd be interested if they try to pull back on that. I think we're going to have a lot of citizens that will come out of the woodwork.
I guess I will just add one thing. We have been working with CCTA to put together kind of the facts, all the history of this. That's what a lot of the operator meetings were. We were lucky that we had Charlie, County Connection had Rick Ramos here, and Tri-Delta had Jeannie Krieg, Steve Pond, who were there for the whole when these agreements were put in place. So there was a lot of history that we were able to kind of gather, put together, understand how we took these services on, how we evolved them, improved them. So all of that information is definitely part of our process going forward when we're sitting around the table talking about it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Rob, so I wonder if MTC, so why is this, the plan is even nonsense. Just renegotiating what? If we don't have the express service to BART, we will be disserviced, as Director Tom said, and then the agreement was to actually have these buses connecting. Is there a plan that somebody else is going to operate this? Have you heard anything?
I think we have not had that frank conversation with BART.
Okay.
It's because we have not been in the room with them. So I think
I see.
there is a need for BART to understand what this actually means. So
Yeah, we have the ridership there. We have the numbers of people actually using that service in connecting from the Pinole, Crockett, Rodeo areas to the region.
It's worth noting that this is not just going to be a Westcott conversation.
No, it's everywhere.
I
in
think
the
all
county
four
country.
operators are really committed to this service and the importance of this service within their own community. So we're definitely coming at this with a unified voice and a unified support throughout the four agencies.
Okay, that's going to help a lot. Yeah.
Okay, any other questions? Director Martinez Rubin?
Thank you. I'm the word doesn't make sense is ringing in my head. And so, Rob, when the time comes that there is public comment, either at MTC or wherever these discussions are being had between, I'm not even sure who, BART and MTC, let us know, because as city representatives and members of this board, I think we can also express how we are contending with new housing projects that are coming into our cities. And if indeed we as board members are advocates and promote the use of transit, then it is inconsistent for us not to speak up and continue having the express or the connector buses from our cities to into BART, because the expectation is that people will otherwise the expectation is that we indirectly are continuing to support the use of regular vehicles and not encouraging transit, and to do away with the resource that we believe is useful and that would support the people, future residents of our cities. It's necessary for us to speak up about that when we know that cities there may not be sufficient means of addressing the need to get from one geographic area to another, short of having people continually drive their own vehicles. It just seems so contradictory to me to have this large agency, namely BART, consider the possibility, even consider the possibility of not supporting the connectors. I'd like to be able to say that.
I completely agree. I think I'm still
Elsewhere, other than ourselves here who support transit.
I'm still hopeful that this can be resolved on a staff level, but I think if that time arises, the board will definitely be informed of whenever this is on an agenda at MTC or BART or however we do need to kind of raise our concerns. So I noted.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, seeing none, I guess we'll go to WCTAC representative reports. Don't think we have anybody to give one this evening, so we'll go to correspondence.
No correspondence.
Okay. Board communications? Anything from the board?
Keep at it, Rob Thompson, our new general manager, and the staff, and just keep us informed however we can continually learn with each other and support the work that's necessary for transit to continue to be accessible, available, and used. Thank you.
Yes, and I want to thank Rob just for the support. It's my first full meeting, so thank you for that. And then I love the modifications to the agenda reports. We get a little bit of some data in the background before we come to the meeting. I think it helps make the meeting flow a little bit smoother as well. So thank you for those changes. If there's no other comments from the board, the next item on the agenda is the adjournment. And what I'll do is I'll invite everyone to attend the next scheduled board meeting, which is scheduled for September 8th, 2022. With that, I'll say good evening, everyone. Have a good night.
Thanks, everyone.
Can I
Yes.
just say something about
Oh, yes.
September 8th is Cal Cities.
That's right.
So,
Okay, we'll make it. I guess we'll note that, and Rob, we'll have a conversation about alternatives.
Yeah.
okay.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you for that. I appreciate that. All right, have a good evening, everyone.
Like,